Ain't you sick of giving me your money?
Oh, it's... Oh. I know he didn't do it, baby.
Hold on a second. Whoa. Where you going?
No, I'm about to go make these drop balls.
What's going on, everybody? I'm Bradley DLO Thomas. I'm a marketing professional by day, beatmaker, producer, and MC by night.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Corey DUB Whitmore, CEO and owner of Media 22 LLC. Also, been known to jump on the mic here and there, and still doing my beat thing. So that's what we do. That's how I get down.
Yes.
Opal, Ellyse. I work in finance by day as a director of multicultural business strategy and also an MC known to get on the mic and spoken word artist as well.
Now, I'm not going to let you get away with being that humble, Opal. Come on now. Come on now. She's an award-winning author. She does shows, corporate events, dope MC, poet, recording with Juicy J. Named one of the top 51 influential Black leaders in 2020 by Madison 365 Media. So we gotta give you your shout outs right now.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm gonna have to replay this every morning just to get me in the
Yes, and we're so glad to have you on this podcast today. The focus is going to be around credit and predatory lending, and Opal was very open and willing to kind of answer some questions that we may have. I know that I've been through some trials and tribulations with credit and with predatory lending. So if you have ever been in that boat, this is the show for you.
Yes.
Don't skip past this. Take notes because I know she's going to be dropping some jewels on us.
Facts.
For sure.
I have no fear of airing my dirty laundry for the benefit of others for this one. And it is dirty when it comes to what I've been trying to, I would say, continuous journey for me, repairing my own credit and just learning along the way. So yeah, I'm definitely here to share that real experience.
Right. Cool.
That information that you don't get in school, but I think that that needs to be in school.
Yes.
Because I think credit catches most people off guard because they're not, especially when you're young, you're not really that aware of it. And some of your practices, you get into some bad habits, myself included. And it's not till I got older to see, what that impact is, especially when you start trying to get that car and start trying to get that house and things of that sort. Or trying to get, loans for a business and things of that sort. And now jobs be looking up your credit too.
That's true. Yeah.
Thanks.
So it's, I think this is a crucial topic and glad we're going to be tackling this in episode 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I will add to that, jobs. I have had volunteered with organizations and they have looked up my credit.
Oh, volunteer.
That's crazy.
I've been like, wow, okay, y'all approach me, but y'all want to make sure that this is okay. So, so yeah, it is real. It is real.
That's what's up.
Cool.
Let's jump into our first question. I think we want to get things started off and get some general terms down and some basic understanding. So, our first question basic is, what is a good credit score?
Yeah. So, like I said, I'll share my story. Just disclaimer here. I do work in finance, but I'm not a financial advisor, but I will share what I know. And I know a lot because I've had to kind of pull myself out of this hole. So good credit score is really anything upper 600s to about 740. So about 670 to 740 is going to be considered good. And then excellent is anything that's over 800. And really looking at anything that is going to be, below 600 as being really poor credit. And I say that to say, like, I used to think about credit like grades, right? I was like, oh, okay, most people are doing well. No, that's false, right? Most people are actually in the very poor, or fair, right? And then and we're not really taught that in school, and that's probably why we're in those boats. But yeah, those you can, and those are kind of, and they vary a little bit. That's Equifax that I'm kind of quoting, but those are they're pretty general along those lines. So don't feel bad, is what I say, if you don't have a 670. Do not feel bad. The folks with 670 and above are like doing really good, even though that's called good. So just kind of keep that in mind.
So you mentioned Equifax. So what exactly is Equifax when it comes to credit scores? Like what kind of company is that?
Yeah, so it'd be one of the credit bureaus, right? It's just one of the folks who, just think about it as one of these entities who's taking a look at the credit you've been extended, the ways that you've been paying your bills, and they have come up with this score for you. So typically lenders will take a look at Equifax as well as TransUnion, and then sometimes they'll even use other parties to kind of figure out what score they're going to go off of. So if you have any of like some of the free tools out there, you'll be able to kind of see, you can go to any of those sites and they'll be able to kind of pull your score. And if you kind of got all three of those, you can really kind of tell what your score is probably going to look like to lenders.
So, some people that may not have pulled their score yet, I know before I started constantly monitoring my score, I was always told, oh man, don't pull your credit. That's going to pull your credit score down.
Yes.
That's true.
So can you, how do you work around that of making sure that, you're able to check your credit, but it's not affecting your score negatively?
Yeah, that's a good point that you bring up. Like a lot of those are kind of like, we've just been told like we shouldn't look at it. And I love when you said constantly, because that's me. I am constantly looking at my score, constantly getting these numbers. So you can do it through some of the things that I've named, myfreecreditreport.com, myannualcreditreport.com, and they will pull it and it won't affect your credit. If you are actually like a part of a credit union, they can do that for you too, and it won't be called like what's like a hard inquiry, where if you were going in to get a home or a car or something like that, that may affect your credit. So usually now they're really good about telling you, hey, we can pull this and it won't impact your credit. So just make sure you kind of see that disclaimer that says it won't impact your credit to look at. There's so many tools out there that you can see it without impacting your score.
That's good. That's great information to know. For those who need to look up their score. I used to think the same thing as both of y'all. Like I didn't really feel comfortable looking it up. Would you say, I guess in today's world, we all know that credit is important, but is credit actually more important than cash at this point? Physical currency, or what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I would say credit is super important, right? Like, so cash is king when it comes to you. If you have a whole bunch of money, a whole bunch of money, you may be able to get around having a credit score, right? If you have hundreds of thousands of dollars, several thousands of dollars, you may be able to say you're trying to rent an apartment, right? And they're like, your credit score is too low. You may be able to say, hey, if I pay not only first and last month rent, but if I pay you 6 months ahead of time, might they make an exception for you? Sure. But the typical person, most of us don't have 6 months of any rent sitting around in addition to moving costs to be able to do that. Whereas if you've got decent credit, then you'll be able to just have to kind of pay the regular way. And there's a lot of thought leadership and articles around, the high cost of being poor. And a lot of that comes down to that credit score, right? So you can, if you are paying a high interest rate, if you're paying, and these sound crazy, but they are not. If you're paying 29%, say, interest rate on a vehicle, which I've done, I've had to do that because, right? I was paying a car note, that was $550+ for a Ford, when someone with good credit is paying $550+ for an Audi. You know what I mean? Or a Lincoln SUV. And it's because, you're paying so much more in interest. So I would say that credit is huge in that way. Unless you have so much money that it doesn't matter, credit is going to definitely be more important as far as what you end up paying kind of at the end of the month, at the end of the year.
Right. So, when it comes to credit in this credit score, what are all of the contributors? Because I've talked with some people and they tell me like, oh, I pay my stuff. I pay my stuff on time. So my credit got to be good. Without checking it, I'm like, yo, you may need to look into that, bro, because I know there's a lot of different things that contribute to that score. It's just not being up on payments, even though I know that is very important. But for the people watching or listening, what are all the things that contribute to that score?
Yeah, there's so many factors, and yes, paying things on time, as you said, that is an important factor. But it's also what you're paying, right? Unfortunately, right now, like if you are renting, like I said, I'm renting, like I've been paying rent on time for 20 years.
Right.
Because if you don't pay rent on time, you're out on the street.
Right.
But that doesn't help my credit one bit, right? So that's a bill that's on time, but doesn't help.
Right.
So on time, and you have to make sure that it's certain things. Utilities do help. Credit cards do help. But it also is really looking, what's your available credit, right? So if I have, 4 different credit cards with $5,000 limit or something on each of them, that's potentially $20,000, right, of credit that's available to me. But if all those cards are maxed, right, then I don't have that available credit to me, right? So that's why they always, you always hear folks quoting, you want to keep your balances low. You want to keep them about 30% low when you're talking about cards, right? So to make sure that your available credit is there. They're also going to look at, especially if like you're really looking into like buying a home, they're going to look at your debt to income, right? How much do you owe compared to how much you bring in each year? So this is where I think folks too get in big trouble, and or I should really say have the assumption that, oh, if I make a lot of money, I can get whatever I want. Unfortunately, you can't. I know that firsthand too. different levels in my life, like I can get whatever I want. They're like, oh, ma'am, your student loans are also, also big balling. And that debt to income just takes it way down for you. So yeah, sorry, back to your question, Corey. I would say that paying things on time, looking at making sure you know how much available credit you really have, and then the age of that credit matters too, right? So how long have you had those accounts is super important, because that, again, they're just really looking at your credit worthiness. What's your likelihood on paying something back? How stable are you, right? So that's another thing. If you have a card and you keep it low, like don't close that account, right? Because that has long age on it, which is going to be a positive factor for your credit. Just kind of keep it low. Maybe do one purchase a month, pay it off, but keep it on there. Same thing with actually age of bank accounts even helps as well. So even if it's not your primary account, you might want to just keep like a little savings there or something. But again, those things kind of say, okay, we know Opal, we've been dealing with her. She's had a relationship with this financial institution. She's been pretty stable, and those little things kind of add up. They're not all weighted equally. Also, you want to keep delinquencies off. Those can hit you hard. You can work really hard and pay some things off and keep things low, and then forget about one bill. And if it goes all the way to a collector, that's going to knock you down. You may work 2 months to get 8 points, and you get that one delinquency, and it's going to take 10 from you. And it can be really discouraging. So really looking in. One thing I heard that was a piece of advice, and I don't even remember where I heard it, but I heard that people without money run from bill collectors and their debts, and people with money know to run towards them. And what that was really saying is, like, if you have a bill and you know you can't pay it, like pick up the phone, call and see if there's a way that you can prevent that account from going into a bill collector and hitting your credit. And see, generally there's grace periods, exceptions, some ways to keep it from really becoming a delinquency is going to be important.
That's a key one right there, because I remember being told not to answer the phone. People call.
We were taught, right? Okay, or you
don't answer that phone. Do that,
or just be it be unplugged. Or I remember one time when I owed a lot of money on a credit card, and I knew their 800 number, so I just put their name in the phone and you know what I'm saying, just muted it. Like every time, like it was calling, because I was like, I got your money, why you calling me? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna tell you the same thing, but clearly that's not the way. You can't run from your problems. I'm glad that you said that. Jay-Z said something in a song. I remember he said, don't run from the pain. Run towards it or something. I
Right.
forgot which album he said it on, but that's so true. Um, so this got me thinking about credit and people that don't have any credit or they're going through tough situations, and they just, kind of in a rut. So, are there any suggestions or strategies that you've used or you would advise people maybe think about if they don't have any credit established or they did have some bad credit that happened? Like, are there any tricks that you've seen people use to help their credit score?
Yeah, yeah. So I think what's really hard is that, like that old saying, it takes money to make money is true, right? Right.
Mhm,
So
very
because
true.
one of the first things I'll say that you can really do is like get a secured card, right? So that just means I put $200 in this bank or this institution, and they give me a credit card worth $200 because my credit's so bad they can't trust me with nothing but my own money. But the positive is, as I'm spending that, I'm building positive credit with that, and they'll probably continue to increase it, right? But many folks don't have a 200 extra dollars, right,
Right.
laying around. So I think one thing that I always say is like reach out to folks like smarter than you, right? So like I'm always going to advocate for credit unions, because if you go into any credit union, there's usually a few offices to the side, and they have financial advisors in there. And many of us think that, if you ain't got a whole bunch of money, why would I even go in there, right? But the thing is, they will be willing to help you. Now, they're not going to sit with you like every day, but they will definitely sit down with you once. They will print off that your credit report for you again, free of charge, again, without it hurting your credit score, and really kind of walk with you and kind of help you kind of look at things. And then if you have that relationship, it always comes down to people, right? There are so many policies, so many rules, but it always comes down to people. And they may be able to make an exception for you, right? At the end of the day, it's always a person generally saying yes or no, especially if you walk in and you're not just going online, right? You may start it online, but if you walk in and you say, hey, this is what I'm trying to do, and they say, yeah, we got this secure card, and you're like, I really don't have $200. What can I do to kind of get this started, and get that going is a possibility. And a lot of us, and this is something I didn't know either, already have access to some revolving lines of credit at our financial institutions, right? So sometimes they're called like overdraft protection. Sometimes they are called payday advances. And typically it's like, $250 to $500 that you can just tap into, right? That does hit your credit report and does show and is positive. So you may have that available to you right now, and you're thinking you have no options, and that might be there. But again, if you don't ask, if you don't run towards it, then you're not going to know that it's there, because unfortunately, they don't advertise those too well. It's actually part of my day job, is trying to say, hey, y'all should really advertise this, especially if you want to reach younger folks, low income folks, people of color. That needs to be said. That should be shouted from the rooftops. There's $500 available to folks at any time, because many emergencies that come up are less than $500, right? But it can ruin your whole life if your car breaks down, you can't get to work, and you can't get additional money. Just to really find out what's available to you, I think is huge.
Okay.
Could I take this opportunity to kind of clear up some myths, I guess, or things that are commonly heard in association with credit? I think that many times some people are me myself included, too embarrassed to go check because they feel like, oh man, I've messed up on this, and this. I know it's bad. I don't need to go look at it.
Yeah.
But at least from my own experience, as I learned more about credit, I found out that some of those things actually didn't contribute to the score. But I thought they did. So, I'm going to just throw a few things out there that, either I've heard has been from my experience that some people may believe are contributors. And I would like you to say, yes, this is this does contribute, or contributes, maybe in this way, or does not. So the one thing that you already dismissed was rent. Yeah, paid your rent on time, but that's not a contributor. You also said school loans show up, but not directly for your score, but in your debt to income ratio, correct?
Yep. Yeah. And they can. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, please finish that thought.
I was just going to add to that. That's another place, and personally, I've had to do this too. That's another place where run towards that. I They will work with you. They are required by law. Obama did some great things, not to get too political, but he did some great things on making sure that this can go really low. You can do deferments. You can have things held off. You can have it based on your income. You can have it as low as you need it, right, with student loans. But one thing you can't do is ignore it. If you ignore it, then you will be hit with that. They want you to pay like ridiculous amount. If you have a lot of student debt, like I've had and do have, they can have monthly payments of $1,900 and think that that's fine. And then you look up 3 months you've been ignoring it. Well, now you in the hole for a used car price, and you're like, I can't do it. If you would have called, if you would have written, a lot of this stuff you do online. I haven't had to talk to anybody in a long time, which I appreciate. Because they just have all this self-service, but you can put it in there and say, hey, for this reason, and some of it can just be like, you can just say, I've had a thing that affected me. You don't have to get into too much detail, and they'll give you 6 months, right? You can get a forbearance for up to 2 years and then renew if you need to, but you got to run towards it. If you ignore that student loan, and student loans will get you quick too, and you can be garnished. And that's the last thing that you want to happen, is to ignore something and stop calling you. Then they write your job, and then your check is short, and then you're in a worse position, and good luck trying to get out of that one.
Right. So what about electric bill?
There are, utilities do count. Utilities do show up, and they count. So that's another one. If you live in Wisconsin, MG&E, Alliant, if you having trouble, and let me recall, it ain't been too long, but I believe if you're having trouble between November and May, they can hold that off for you, but you got to let them know, right? You got to let them know to try to stay in good standing. But yeah, utilities will definitely show up. You're late with MG&E, you're going to see that red on there easily. Yeah, so they do show up. And there's, the problem is they show up poorly. And now they're starting to do things where they can show up positively if you pay. I'm in a certain way. I can't even, maybe one of y'all can recall what it is that is it? I can't think of it. But it's something that's helping other ways that you pay start to add, because they recognize that a lot of things that you pay aren't hitting it positively, even though they'll hit it negatively if you miss it.
Right.
So one of the new things that have popped up that I've seen, they got the commercials for them now, and they got commercials for everything. Talking about, oh man, if you pay on your subscription to like Netflix or Hulu or something, that may positively influence your credit. Is that something that you can speak to? Is that something that you've been aware of or seen?
Yeah, and it just came to me. I was thinking of Experian Boost, so I'm not sure if Netflix is included in that. It could be, but there are some things you can wrap into that to have it affect positively. But yeah, I'm not sure about Netflix. But I will say, if you're paying Netflix like I am, where it just automatically comes off of a credit card, paying that credit card on time is going to be beneficial, and that's one of the tricks you can do. Like if you want to keep a balance low, like I have one card that is really only used for a couple of subscriptions. I have another card that I really only use for like health stuff, so that those always stay low, but then they always get paid every month to keep that good standing.
Okay.
And I wanted to add something to what you said too, Opal. I like the fact that you mentioned that you put your bills on your credit card, because what recently happened to me actually was that I had a credit card that I had paid off, but I stopped using it. And when I stopped using it, they said, all right, well, you don't need it. And, almost took it away from me if I hadn't been paying attention to it, and would have affected my credit score. So I like that you mentioned that you put your bills on there and you keep it low, so it'll still be alive and they won't take it from you.
Yeah, because that's a huge thing. Yeah, not using it. And again, that just affects that available credit, right? Like you got a credit card that you ain't been using, it's fine, but it's kicking $1,000 of available credit to you each month. They take that away. That's a hit. That's a hit. You did nothing wrong, like you said. Nothing wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, there's just one other thing that that's come up that I want to get your perspective on, and that is paying your car note. And how that affects or does not affect your credit score as well.
Yeah, so paying your car note on time will be a positive thing. So that just looks on your credit like a loan for a certain amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
Again, a car loan can be good with age, right? Because that can be, 3, 5 years, depending on what kind of terms you got for the loan. Now I would say balance that, right? Like as you get savvy, as you get in a better position, are you able to refinance that and make that possibly be for a lower rate? That could be positive. But yeah, as long as you're paying that and hitting that, that does show positive for it being on time. You're also bringing it down, the total debt, you're bringing that down each time you pay that. So yeah, I would say just balance that. Like after like each year, right? I either say like after each year with something like a car loan, or like if you get a raise, after a new job, really look and see like, is this what I can get? If your score increases, and see, should I refinance? Does it make sense to pay it off early? Or I'm only saving a few bucks and then I don't have my oldest account on my credit score anymore. And will that actually hurt me? So really looking and balancing those things.
Right.
Oh, dope. That's super cool. So I think I had one more question, which kind of leads into another topic that we're going to talk about today, which is predatory lending.
Mhm.
You kind of mentioned some examples before, but overall, I guess from your perspective, how have you seen um, the impacts of credit and how that plays a part in systemic racism? From opportunities and just from credit in general. Because you've come across a lot of things
Mhm.
working at CUNA and working in different financial systems. So,
Right.
I would just like to hear your perspective on it.
Yeah. So predatory lending is like a passion of mine, right? There are two things that really get me. One is gentrification, and the other one is predatory lending, because they
Mm-hmm.
harm folks of color so much, right? They harm low income folks so much. So predatory lending, like you thinking about just the interest rate being so high is the main factor that makes something predatory. Where you might say, and folks are paying like 350 to 500 APR, right? And this is something that's accruing daily. So
Yep.
no matter what you took out, if you actually follow the terms of loan, this is following it, not missing a payment, not missing a day, you are paying 3 and 5 and so much more times, right? What you took out. And it's just unfair, because if you had good credit and were able to go to like a bank or a credit union or a fintech, you would be able to get that for so much lower. And it just isn't fair. And it's a passion of mine, because I've definitely is really because of payday lending. And it's you asked about kind of that systematic piece, right? So we have I would say just go to like, okay, newamerica.org if you're kind of like into data and kind of a geek and maps and stuff like I am. If you go to newamerica.org, it's free. It's a nonprofit organization that put this up. It will actually show you like the whole United States map. And then it'll show you the areas that are saturated with more people of color, right? So it's kind of a gray scale. And the darker the gray, the more folks of color are in these areas, right? And then you can kind of click, banks, you can click credit unions, and then you can click, they call them alternative financial services, but those are going to be your predatory lenders, your payday loans, and your check cashing places.
Okay.
The more diverse, the more people of color, you're going to see the predatory lenders show up in red dots. Regardless of where you go. I don't care if you are in Montana. I don't care if you are in Miami. I don't care if you're in LA or if you're in Madison, Wisconsin. You go look at Madison, Wisconsin and see the amount of red sprinkled in the areas that are more diverse. And the cool thing about that is you can go down to the neighborhood. So it's on purpose, right? It's on purpose. It states back to redlining is why, some of our places are so segregated, to when Black folks couldn't own homes in certain places, right? And predatory lenders have really preyed on people who don't have the access, and also who don't have the transportation. So they do this in urban areas, and they also do this in rural areas where they might be the closest thing in walking distance, or you got to pass 3 check cashing places to get to a regular bank, right? And so again, I get passionate about it because it's on purpose. Like they know who they're targeting, and it's horrible because it's the folks who have the least. It's the folks who don't own a home, and we know that home ownership is correlated with wealth. It's the folks who aren't in a position to have inherited money to start out better, right? And to have something to leave to their kids. So there is so much systematic stuff in there. We don't have time to get into it all today, but it's huge. So for me, it came down to taking out a loan, like a $2,000 loan, right, to help family, right? And this was like not that long ago either, right? I'm talking about like 2013 probably, right? I got some money to help my mom because she had to move suddenly and wasn't making a whole bunch of money at my job, you know, and I paid back $10,000 in 1 year on an original $2,000
Wow.
because I had to continue taking out other ones and then finally got it off. And again, I say, go talk to folks smarter than you. It wasn't finally until I went and I said, okay, I gotta get this together, right? I know that like my whole check is about gone, right? Because I'm trying. So I went in, and one of the financial advisors there, I went in on Saturday morning when they got time for folks. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
He was like, oh no, you can't do this.
Yeah.
And like, you know, and I don't know if this will work for everybody, but this was good for me. He said, go ahead and close that account. We'll open up another one for you. You'll work with them on paying off that delinquent one, but you got to start getting your paycheck not affected this way. Because of course I had direct deposit because you have to do it that way. But again, if I didn't reach out, what would I have just done? Continue not having anything, trying to take out other ones. And they make it so easy right now with these installment loans are also called that you'll see online. But if you really look at it, and they have to show you by law what it looks like. If you were to actually pay this thing back, it's ridiculous how much you would have to really pay back if you followed that, right? The only real way to get out of it is to stop or to be able to like pay the whole thing off.
You know, you would think that there's some sort of like legislation or some sort of group trying to knock something like this down, because you're literally robbing people of their future.
Yes.
You know, it's terrible.
There are like places like New York. New York is one that's really beat down on that. Like even if you go to the online ones, or like if you're in New York, we can't service you because New York is one of the places who's done that. California is doing something. Wisconsin actually has some stuff around it too, but so slowly but surely they're kind of cracking down. But yeah, they've been just allowed to prey on the people who need it. And then fortunate thing is if your credit score is low, you can't go anywhere else, right? I didn't, when this happened to me, I had degrees and I understood money a little bit, right? Like I went to my financial institution that I had a 10-year relationship with and said, hey, this is what I need. This is what's happening. Sorry, your credit score is too low. Sorry, your debt to income, those things. So unfortunately, Lisa Servin wrote a book called The Unbanking of America, and she's a professor who actually went undercover and worked at a payday lending place for a year and saw and understood, right, like the ways that they have really studied, unfortunately, the ways that they have studied their consumer, right, makes it right. Their menu is right. They know when to be open. They know who to staff, right? And it's so hard because you don't have any other option. In many cases, it's just like, am I gonna, I know this is a bad financial decision, but I have to pay my rent, right? Or we have to eat. And those are the decisions that most Americans are faced with a lot. And I emphasize that and say most, because I think we tend to think of that as the exception as someone who's living paycheck to paycheck or even paycheck before paycheck. And that's not. That's like most folks are living like that.
Yeah, I can relate to that story 100%. I was taking out payday loans to pay off payday loans. Like, it's not a good feeling at all. Thank you for that book too. So Unbanking America. I think that's something that all the people should definitely check out. So as we're looking at predatory lending, you started talking about the rates. Are some of the rates kind of, we know they're ridiculously high, but are there any, have you ever seen anything where it's kind of small but then adjustable rate where it can change, throughout the term of the loan?
Yeah. So there are some of those, some for good, right? Some payday lenders, I would say, with a heart or a soul or a conscience or whatever's making them do it. Some will say, hey, we're going to kind of lend to you, but if you prove your credit worthiness with us, right, your interest rate can go down, right? And then you kind of have to, I've done it. I've gone through, like they have quizzes for you and they really try to kind of teach you about things along the way, usually online. But so they can kind of work with you, but you're never really going to get down to a rate that would really be fair against something else, right? So you're just not going to get there. And I think that I'm not a homeowner yet, but I know that there's with fixed rate mortgages, with adjustable rate mortgages, advantages and disadvantages to both, right? So if you're going into a fixed rate, that means that for the life of the loan, I'm going to pay the same amount going ahead. It could be predatory if you don't read that fine print and it's adjustable and it balloons up. That could be something that can harm you. But if it's not predatory and it's something that you're not going to live there too long, then you might want to do something like that. And that's a little bit beyond, again, the realm of my experience and expertise. But that is again where I just say reach out to somebody smarter than you that's really looking at that. And for everything, look at the fine print, because when remember, I think we forget that when you're getting a loan, like you're buying something, you're actually buying something. And I think we tend to think, at least I did, you're giving me something when I get a loan, right? So you're excited and you're happy and it's allowing you to get what you want to get. But you got to look at that fine print in there to make sure that it's not something that's actually harming you, and really understand what you'd be paying if you went through the life of the loan, what you'd be paying if you were able to pay it off early, because those are going to be very two different things in many cases.
To piggyback off of that, sometimes you'll see different advertisements saying, no hidden fees, and then it makes you think, what if I purchased that did have the hidden fees in there? And sometimes we're just not aware, and I know a lot of that comes in the fine print as well. But what are some things, or something that we would see or read that should give us alarm, like, oh, hold on, I need you guys to explain this, a little bit more. So what's kind of behind that hidden fees? What are they, and how do we look out for them?
Yeah, sometimes there's so many different hidden fees, right? Like a one-time additional finance fee, a processing fee that might be on there, a fee if you want it to come out automatically, a fee if you want your paper bill to come and it might be defaulted to the paper bill. There's so many things that you really have to look at, and that's before thinking of different taxes that might be applicable to anything that you're purchasing or taking out there. I mean, I think cell phone bills are notorious for this. I won't say the carrier, but I definitely left the carrier and switched to another one, because I was like, every month, I was like, no, this doesn't add up. Every month, I was like, what is going on? Because they had taxes like there literally, I think, was a tax on the tax. Like it was so much stuff in there that they were just and then when I would call, the rep would walk me right through and she would show me how it was like $70 more than I thought it was going to be. And it was all these additional fees on everything on each line, because we got family that was hit. And I was like, well, I'll be damned. That do add up to $200 a month for a plan it's supposed to be $150. Right. So yeah, you gotta look at those things and see what's a one-time, what's a reoccurring. Because they get away with it. And I would say, DLO, we were just saying that it's really good to have that bill come off on that credit card, but you gotta watch it, because that's the loophole too. What's the extra going to be? Even if I'm not watching it, right, then I could be paying something additional. I could have thought I did a trial. It could have bumped me up to pro on something super easy if you're not really looking. So I would say, even if you've got monthly automatic payments, look at it. Look at it each month and see if you might be able to get a better deal. Call and see if you might get a better deal, because they'll just add stuff on there. You're paying it. Why would they stop?
That's true. That's true. Wow. So pretty much the moral of the story is we don't want to mess with these payday lending stores. Right. I've been through it. Opal's telling you she's been through it. And I guess the better option is to, you were saying, reach out to a bank or maybe a credit union, or are there any like online resources that people can kind of go to kind of help manage their money, so they're not in a situation where they're even thinking about having to go to the store to pay 300-400% a day that I've seen people do, and they're really predatory too, because I've gotten letters in the mail of just like, and it looks like a check too. It's like, hey, here's
Yep.
$5,000. Like,
Right.
and I'm thinking like, yeah, what's going on? And then I read the fine print. I'm like, oh, they trying to rob me. So, are there any other resources that you would advise people kind of look at or consider when they're dealing with predatory lending to help them get out that situation so that they can start building some financial wealth going down the line?
Yeah. I am a fan of like Credit Karma. I know not everybody is, but if you don't like Credit Karma, there are so many others that are out there. Credit Wise, I think, is another one that I get through my financial institution. But they will oftentimes work with lenders who might help you if you're in that fair, right? You're coming up from the
Hmm.
poor credit up into the fair, and be able to give you rates that aren't ideal, but are way better than, again, that 359% APR that you're going to get somewhere else. And then just, again, look at what is already kind of available to you at the financial institutions that you have, and see if there's any community places that can help you too. I think especially sometimes when it's went to lower thing, like I've had to use this definitely back in the day, like, for those who are more local, like Middleton Outreach
Hmm.
Ministry. If you live with kind of in a certain zip code of Madison or Middleton in there, they'll give you $200 toward rent if you can't pay it, right? There are different organizations that can help, as I see all these different places kind of pop up that do offer help or can find to get you kind of help with some of those emergency needs versus going to a
Hmm.
payday lender.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the Progress Center for Black Women sends folks places. Like, reach out to folks, reach out to your network, because there are places that can help with those one-time things. Because again, it's almost always like this one-time thing that starts you in this hole in this process. And pretty much anybody, with a job and direct deposit can get these loans, and it just really messes you up. So I would say definitely exhaust more of your options, and don't be ashamed, right? Right. For me, it was that shame.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
Hmm.
have a decent job. Okay, I
For
got
real.
education. Like, I don't need everybody to know that I can't help my mama out with this. So I'm gonna go quietly over here and do this online loan. And it was just screwed for a whole year. When if I would have spoke up, I think, to more folks and more places,
Right.
they could have at least got me to where I needed to go, right? Because
Right.
one thing I will say that
Hmm.
is good about many communities is we have these resources that can help us out, or at least get us on the right path.
Right.
Sure, indeed.
Can I ask one last question on credit, but focusing now on business credit? I think that, a lot of people that are starting small businesses or mom and pop stores or whatever that, may need that loan or looking for a business credit card to be able to put some things on to get started. Um, you know, One, I guess, is that, the things that make the business credit, is that the same as the things that create the personal credit score? And is there a way for, owners to access what that score is?
Yeah, and y'all are business owners too, so just please chime in. So I've got an LLC, and with that I have an EIN. So right, so
Yep.
that's basically like a social security number for the business, right? So because of
Hmm.
that, it allows me to be able to open up business credit. And what I think sometimes folks don't understand too is sometimes, and to your first question, yeah, it's the same thing. Paying it on time, doing those things is going to keep your business credit well, also. So you want to be careful
Hmm.
of that. But there are, like, I'm thinking of like, I actually used to work for a company, and one of the places we supported was American Express, right? So they had a whole open that was business card, right? And you could get credit cards or charge cards, right? So there's
Right.
different lines that are open to businesses that might not be open to an individual. So definitely check those out. But you're going to want to be diligent with it. But the good thing is if I've got a poor credit score, I have a chance with this business to
Mhm.
get something over here. And the other good thing is that if
Mm.
I'm working really hard, but the business tanks, like half businesses do fail, that's
Mhm.
also not going to work this personal credit, not going to hurt this personal
Mm.
credit score that I'm working on. So they could be two different things. But and y'all can add to this too. But those same principles kind of apply on being able to pay things back, and having that available credit going to be important for that as well.
Mm. Thank you.
Yeah, you covered it well. Yeah, I don't have anything else to add. Yeah. Mhm.
Um, so the other thing I would add to is, for the person that, like many of us were at that point and we didn't want to check it, what are
Mhm.
the first steps that they would need to take, one, figure out that score, but two, to really be active in trying to maximize that score and raising it to as high as they can possibly get it. What are those first steps for those people watching?
Yeah, I say rip that Band-Aid off. Just like you said, you're afraid to look at it. Look at it in its naked ugliness. You know what I'm saying? Look at it and see. Another thing is, if you're not looking at it, you probably have some things that are hidden that are not true. As poor as my credit was, I also had some things that were not true. And so here I'm just thinking, yeah, I am trash. And it's like, okay, I'm trash, but that wasn't my trash. Let me, right? You can easily put in a dispute, right? And you can do all of it online. You can put in a dispute. And most of them go through. So make sure that, first of all, that stuff that's showing up is actually you. I have a unique name, so most of the stuff coming from Opal Thomas Chef School is probably me. But you all may have somebody who's different, or someone who, stole your identity in some way, someone who put a bill in your name, or something that was just truly an honest mistake. So look at that to see if you can make sure that things are factual. And then I think, like all of us have said, it just really takes being diligent, right? It takes looking at it every day. One hack that I used was when I was actually a few years ago, I was trying to get a home, and my credit was a barrier. And so and that's when you're trying to buy a home, sometimes those things you might have to pay for, the lender really wants to get you in, so they'll give you something. So she gave me like a rapid repair, and this was printing out my credit union from the 3 bureaus, but also giving me a strategy within it. Like I kept these papers forever, like it was digital, but I printed out. So I kept them forever, because it was like, if you pay off this, and this, here will be your score. If you do this, and this, here will be your score. So it really gave me a plan to say, okay, this month I got 500 that I can put towards this. What does that look like to give me the best bang for it? And if I can't do some of this till next year, what might roll off? So that was like a super helpful hack. And if I would have paid a rapid repair, that would have cost me several $100s instead of being able to put several $100, towards really building it down. So there are so many strategies when it comes to, and really understanding that it doesn't just mean starting with the biggest or starting with the smallest. Sometimes it could mean that, but it's really like taking the strategy and seeing, what's hitting me hard? How can I get that off? And sometimes it's also picking up the phone. If debts are a little bit older and they've gone to a collection agency, or they've sold it to another collection agency, they might have bought your debt for $30. Your debt might be $500. They'll probably settle with you for $100, right? But you just got to put in that time and get some of those things off. Delinquencies are your issue. And then really for me, I had to make it a game when it came to paying those bills and watching my credit score rise, and having that be something that gave me just as much satisfaction as shopping or anything else, right? I was loving to kind of see that score rise. But for me, it was definitely a mindset change. The first thing, hardest thing, just like you said, Corey, the hardest thing was looking at it and not going from it, and really starting to be like, okay, this is something I can tackle. And for most of us, it's not that bad. It's like not that much. Like if money is your only problem, you ain't got no problems, because somebody could come along and solve your problem like that, and just really, start working at it, and you can get to it. But it takes time. I would say that too. You got to be patient. You can work your ass off for 3 months and see, 4 points, but keep going, and then it'll help and snowball. And if you get a setback, don't give up. Like we all get that.
That's some great advice. That's some great advice. So I want to ask you, for a final question. This is unrelated, but who's your favorite MC right now? I'm just interested to
Oh man, I'm interested in that too. To be honest,
see who you playing.
I got so many. So my favorite MC right now is probably the one who gets the most play right now is probably Nipsey. And I like Nipsey, new Nipsey, and I lived in that Victory Lap album for like 3 years. Like it was just a personal place for me. So I love me some Nipsey, but Jay-Z's my favorite rapper of all time. I like some other folks that maybe nobody's heard of. Like I'm a female, so I really love like 3D Nati. She is an amazing female rapper. Y'all have heard of her, but she spits. And some of your favorite rap songs, just pay attention. If you know a rapper is real hot, but they don't have the rhymes, and then they got this one song that came out, and you're like, damn, that was line after line. It was probably 3D Nati as a ghostwriter, because she's been doing that. So she's definitely one of my favorites. I'm trying to think. I mean, I love J. Cole too. Like I got Lauryn Hill behind me this side. Her genius to me is and nobody's still messing with that 1998 album Miseducation, like word for word, like
For real.
nah,
For real.
nah. So yeah, those are and I love some of the youngins. I like YB and Corday a lot. I think he's a great
Mhm.
storyteller. I like Mulatto a lot. I think she's dope. Yeah, there's a few. I like G Herbo. I like him when I'm feeling like, gutter. Let me listen to
Yeah.
Chicago.
Yeah.
Let me listen right to what he's
Mm-hmm.
talking about. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm eclectic. My playlist will range from like 94 to last week. Because that's my mood. How about y'all?
Oh, well, I'm definitely I work out to Nipsey and DMX.
Uh,
Um,
yeah, DMX.
yeah, I got like different MCs for different moods. So when
Yeah.
I'm really introspective and want to just sit down and chill, there's a couple of ones. I really like Currency. I really like J. Cole.
Mhm.
Um, those are probably the top two right now. I like Larry June too. He's just super laid back,
Oh,
after a hard day of work.
okay.
I just want to sometimes I just want to vibe out to some. I don't really want to
Right.
listen too deep. But then of course I always got to bring it back to Wu Tang. In general, I find myself lately going back to a lot of '90s hip hop and kind of re-examining it, and then seeing like, oh wow, this was a lot doper than I thought it was.
Right?
Right.
Lauryn Hill is one of those artists where I'm like, I finally understand everything that she was talking
Right.
about because it's so advanced. Fonte from Little Brother, of course, is another one of my favorites. But yeah, I'm all over the place too. And some of the younger cats, I like the baby. I like little baby stuff. I
Yeah, I
like the
like
vibe of
that.
their music. Um, yeah, yeah, I like Cardi B too.
Yeah, I
You
like
know
her.
what I'm saying?
Man, I'm gonna be the old head. I'm the one that's just holding on to yesterday, I guess.
Feeling yesterday too.
Man,
All of it.
man, yeah, man. I mean, for me, Pac's a goat. That's where I'll start.
Yeah.
I love Pac. I love everything
All right.
about Pac.
Mhm.
Um, but I think of course, Radio 22 is mainly old school hip hop and R&B, but one of the artists that I think has aged probably better than I thought he would, was Nas.
Yes.
That's
Oh,
true.
I
That's true.
I
Of course.
still play a
yes.
lot of Nas
Yes.
in 2021.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
gotta check the date.
Yeah.
Like, what year is this
Yes.
now?
That's true.
2021. It is for me. It has aged really well, and I can't say that about a lot of artists in the 90s. For me, it's
Right.
something where I'm like, I'm playing Nas every week, multiple times a week. So those two, really, hold a special place. But 90s, was still my thing. X was
Mhm.
big for me. I loved Scarface.
Yeah.
I'll still play the
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Diary.
Hmm.
I loved Mob. I loved Wu Tang. I'm still playing those things. As for right now, I think the biggest thing I'm drawn to, where I'm really liking the consistency and how he continues to challenge himself, is Jordan Lucas.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I like him too. Hmm.
So for me, that's that's that combination of, it sounds right to me. It has some lyrical content, and it has, some of it has some messaging. And
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, if you're able to pull off those things and do it consistently, that's my thing in the beginning. I'm like, oh, I don't know if bro gonna be able to hold up, but he's been consistent with it. So I'll definitely give Jordan Lucas his credit.
Yeah, he has grown on me. I've always known he had skills, but I wasn't sure if I liked him.
Right,
He has definitely grown on me, and he pays homage. Is what I was going to say. That I love.
Yeah.
right,
Sometimes we're missing that, and you got to pay homage. That's why the '90s was so dope, because they did.
right.
And yeah, you got to pay homage to that. But I would agree with that. Nas. And
Hmm.
Nas is still doing stuff that I'm quoting today. Like I hear daily in my head. Like the label Sign Yourself. That's a major key. Like I hear that daily. He just wrote that a few years
Yeah.
ago.
Right,
Saying, like,
right.
he's
Yeah.
beyond genius to me. He's woo, yeah.
Like Nas for me, like Nas, Biggie, um, Jay.
I loved
Uh,
AZ. I got to put AZ in there.
Yeah.
yeah. There's just certain like Inspector Deck Redman, like all that whole for me, the
Mhm.
whole generation. to me they're almost on a whole nother level, and then it's like everybody else is kind of coming up under them, so they're like permanently embedded in my mind when it comes to music, because I play it so much still to this day, just like you,
Right.
Corey. I don't even think about it. It's just like part of my day.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Y'all see that Redman Method Man versus?
Oh yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
had so much.
Yeah.
That's what I had respect for. We were talking before we started about being an older MC and catching your breath and all that. Like, they ain't miss a beat.
No.
Like Method and Red. I was surprised by Red. I knew
It was
Method
in shape too.
right,
Yeah.
Right.
but Redman too. Like, they didn't miss a beat, and I have so much respect for that. Like, so much respect for that. Still killing their craft.
Right.
Yeah, it was dope. I love them too.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Oh, ending on a good note with some hip hop.
Always, always.
That's what's up. Well, we appreciate, you. I mean, you're a host. Everybody gonna see you, but we appreciate you taking the time to school us on, the do's and don'ts when it comes to credit repair, and predatory lending. I think it's a much like we had, the week before, talking about money management. I think that credit is just that next step, especially if you are trying to move towards possibly investing and seeing if you can free up some capital to put in some other places to have money make money for you.
True.
So we greatly appreciate you taking the time to break it down for us.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me, and I'm still learning too, right? Still learning, still making mistakes. That's why I said be diligent, because I had got laxed a little bit, and I was like, oh crap, right? I didn't hit this whole time, so yeah, still learning too. And I like that question you asked about legislation. Like, laws are changing too, so we got to keep up on that too to see what can help us as well.
That's what's up.
Well,
That's what's
thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, Opal. We really do.
Yeah, always a pleasure.
So make sure to check us out on social media. We have our own page at myradio22.com/Black Currency Podcast. You can always check this back at YouTube on our YouTube/Radio22. And we're also on IG. So make sure to look us up on there. We'll be posting different things from the episodes and graphics and things like that we come across. But make sure to add us, follow us on social media as well. All right, y'all. Oh, the last thing we did want to leave you with, because you had that book recommendation. What was that book recommendation so that people can go and check that out as well?
Yeah. The Unbanking of America by Lisa Servan.
Perfect.
So make sure to check out that book as well. We'll try and put a link in the description for y'all so you guys can check that out. All right. And we got anything else for them?
I will say, if you're talking books, a book that's not written by a financial expert is You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. That's
that's a good book.
I heard about that book.
She changed my life. She changed my life when it came to money. She did with that book. That was the key in there. She's got another one after that called You Are a Badass at Making Money. That's also really good. But it was that first one that, like, I remember being at my daughter's piano lesson and reading, and it was just like it for me, because you gotta change your mindset about it. You gotta go from a lack mentality, and it sounds like it's all positive thinking. It's real though. Like it is real. You gotta go from a lack mindset to a gaining mindset for sure. That book was instrumental for me.
Me too. Like I remember there was because she has all these quotes in the book, and there was this one quote that was talking about a lot of people want to stay safe throughout their life just to comfortably make it to death. And I was like, whoa.
Yes.
I never thought about it like that. So that book,
yes.
I co-signed. That book was amazing.
Yeah.
That's what's up. All right, everybody. We appreciate everybody tuning in and everybody listening in. Like I said, make sure you check out us on social media. I believe our episode 3, we're going to start stepping into the stock market and aspects of that. So make sure not to miss out on that one. Other than that, we appreciate everybody. Thank you, Opal. And peace, love,
peace,
happiness. You know how it go. All right, y'all.